Hi guys, a curious thing happened in the House of Commons on Wednesday. Lee Anderson, the newly minted Reform UK MP, stood up and asked a question. What's so unusual about that? Nothing. But usually an MP will limit their questioning to issues affecting their constituency, and Lee Anderson is the MP for Ashfield. So you could imagine he would focus on that place. Instead, he asked the Northern Ireland Secretary of State, Chris Heaton-Harris, about the Irish sea border and goods flowing through it. Why would Lee Anderson ask such a question? Reform UK doesn't even have a candidate in Northern Ireland for the general election. Well, let's first hear the question and then I'll hazard a guess as to what 30p Lee is playing at.
Anderson. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I voted for the Windsor Framework because the Prime Minister said it removed the Irish sea border. Yet £192 million is budgeted to be spent on installing border posts for this non-existent Irish border. So could the Secretary of State please advise the House of the number of checks on people and goods travelling through Great Britain and Northern Ireland? Has these checks increased or decreased since the introduction of the Windsor Framework? Great question.
Secretary of State. Can I thank the honourable gentleman for his question? And it really does depend on whether. So even in the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill, there was provision for a red lane for those goods that were going into Northern Ireland that might well flow into the Republic of Ireland itself. And it does rather depend on whether these numbers the Honourable Gentleman's looked at is checks in the red lane or the green lane, or hopefully in the now through the new internal market scheme. The numbers actually rise and fall dependent on a whole host of factors, and as trade increases, as it is doing so, so will the number of checks as a whole, but they will go down as a percentage because the checks will be on goods going through most of the red lane. Now, we will soon get to the point promised in the command paper where we ensure there will be no checks when goods move within the United Kingdom internal market system, save those conducted by UK authorities as part of a risk-based or intelligence-led approach to tackle criminality, abuse of the scheme, smuggling or disease risks. And this will ensure the smooth flow of goods that are moving within the UK internal market. Okay,
so first of all, Lee Anderson hadn't a clue what he was talking about. He was reading off a script. Obviously, the script was prepared for him. Now, who prepared the script for Lee Anderson? Well, I believe it was the TUV, the Extreme Unionist Party in Northern Ireland. You see, the TUV, to the right of the DUP, have no MPs in the House of Commons. But the TUV and Reform UK made a non-aggression pact or some sort of agreement a few weeks back. And it seems that what perhaps part of that agreement is, well, what we'll do is we'll ask questions on your behalf. So Reform UK will ask questions on your behalf in the House of Commons, of course, to embarrass who? Maybe not so much the Tories, but to embarrass the DUP. Because the DUP are under pressure in Northern Ireland from the TUV and others for getting back into the Northern Ireland Executive. The Northern Ireland Executive, one of the requests that the DUP had was that there would be no longer an Irish sea border. So, of course, the TUV are putting pressure on the DUP ahead of the general election and the local elections. And they're going to try and take advantage of the situation and suggest that, look, the DUP have betrayed unionism. They got back into the executive. They didn't get rid of the Irish sea border. And, of course, the TUV don't have a voice, no one to represent them in the House of Commons, apart from Lee Anderson. And this is what I think Lee Anderson is doing. He's asking questions on behalf of the TUV, because he's the MP for Ashfield. His constituents don't care about what's happening between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. They don't understand the Windsor Framework or the Irish sea border, and and most of them probably don't care. They prefer him asking questions that are important to them, like the cost of living crisis in Ashfield, schools, things like that. So I think this is what's happening. I could be wrong, but this is, I believe, an attempt to embarrass the DUP to help the TUV. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.